Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is mindset, and the title is Your Problem Isn't Your Problem. Now, before we get into unraveling that mystery conundrum, this is our 600th podcast. That is crazy. So thank you for those who've been listening since podcast number 1. I'm not sure if there actually is anybody, but if you have, that's freaking awesome. So thank you for being here for the wild ride that it is. And for anybody that's tuned in, hopefully however many of the podcasts you've listened to have been helpful. And I thank you very much for listening. And this was something that I originally started just kind of to benefit myself and to kind of improve my own feeling of self-worth. And I thought helping others would be a great way to help myself. And it has turned out to be that way. So thank you for everybody who downloads and listens to the podcast. You are helping my mental and emotional health and helping me live a happier life. And you may not even be aware of that. So thank you very much. Also, we had somebody recently who signed up to be a patron of the podcast, which is to make a kind of financial donation. Good Lord, that word came out slowly. But they make a financial donation. There we go. Although I don't know how you could donate otherwise. Donate clothes to the podcast? Not sure if that'd be helpful. But they're making a financial donation every month, and I really appreciate that. So the podcast does come with some costs for hosting and whatnot. So thank you to the patrons who support the podcast. I sincerely appreciate it. It helps the podcast be able to be done every day and to be able to share more and more content. And I appreciate your help very, very much. So thank you very much. Okay, now to today's topic. The title, Your Problem Isn't Your Problem, actually came from a podcast that I was listening to this week. So I listened to various podcasts. Some of them are business related, some of them are kind of personal development related, and some of them are religious. And this one came from around those areas. And what it basically comes down to is that when people express what their problem is, they usually name the challenge or the struggle that they're facing. But your problem is actually not that. Your problem is more so found in how you're reacting to the obstacle. So we're going to go into this a little bit more detail, but what I wanted to clarify right away was that this is more so for reoccurring or everyday kind of problems. So problems that we see holding us back from our happiness and kind of our best life that happen every day, every month, every year. They're just things that are always around. So there are problems that we've been using as excuses. So for example, people will say, I have no time, or I'm not good at that, or I don't know how, or they'll name other people or other things, like they always blah, 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 and that's why this person can't be happy, or if it wasn't for da, 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 that's why this person can't be happy. So we're more so trying to talk about issues that just don't seem to be going away. Now, this does not mean I don't mean to say your problem isn't your problem in a sense of like short-term things. There are things that come up every day that are crazy, and how we react is a little bit scattered, and over time we might get better at reacting to similar kind of pop-up things. So there is development we can use in regards to responding better to categories of issues. But what I really want to address today is if there's something that's holding you back from your best life, whether that's in physical health, related to exercise and nutrition, which would be obviously what this podcast is mostly related to, but even if it's related to other areas of health, emotional health, mental health, relational health, spiritual health, if there are things that just seem to always be in the way and they're not going away, what I'd like to kind of bring to light is that problem can be overcome if we look deeper into how we respond to it or how we're not responding to it. And sometimes, we're going to talk at the very end here, is the problem doesn't go away. So we are left with a choice of addressing a problem or accepting a problem. And sometimes the acceptance of the problem is what people struggle with. So we'll get into all that, but at first I wanted to give some examples from me. So sometimes I'll give examples about my clients or other people, and it sounds like I'm kind of talking on a soapbox, but this is something that I've had to learn to overcome. And as I've been better at recognizing my role in responsibility to reactions to my problems, I've been able to find better balances and better pathways through and around and addressing my problems over time, and it's helped me live a happier life. So, for example, when I first started the business, I opened the business because, so I own a gym, Brutal Iron Gym, and I opened the gym to train my clients. So I've been training clients. I had, at the time, I was I forget the exact title, but I think an adjunct professor would be the title at the local university, and I was going through grad school. As I came to the end of my grad school, I already had a couple of my teachers actually as clients, and I had a good clientele. And I thought that it would be maybe a good opportunity, given the fact I was fresh out of school and didn't really have any kind of major long-term 5, 10 year career already started. It would be a good opportunity for me to try my gym. And if it didn't work, then I could try something else. But I figured it was a good idea to try my dream job, nice and young, when I'm maybe too naive to know that I shouldn't have. But I started the gym because I like to train people and I like being in gyms. It wasn't because I thought I was a good business owner. So that was a big kind of revelation for me, was there was a lot more to owning a gym than training people and signing people up as members. Now, that is something that I kind of unfortunately sat on as an excuse that held back the development of the gym in the first early years. Was one aspect was learning business finance, business accounting. And I remember I used to always say, like, well, I'm not good at finances, or I'm not good at that. And that's something I would always say anytime, like maybe a problem came up, if I overpaid in a bill because I didn't understand, some type of contract wording, or if there was any kind of financial issues, that was always my response is, well, I'm not good at finances. And what I realized and what I had to continue to teach myself was that my problem wasn't that I wasn't good at finances. My problem was I wasn't actively pursuing more knowledge about business finances. And one of the main reasons why is because I knew I already knew so little that it was going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time to even become decent at it. So that belief of the obstacle or the challenge of learning it being large is what made me kind of prevented me from even starting into the process. And I wish I would have started a lot earlier. So I eventually actually did start reading finance books. I did start learning how to budget for businesses that have variable income kind of amounts. So, for example, with membership, it's always changing a little bit every month. With personal training earnings, that's always changing a little bit every month. My business expenses change as well, so how much our utilities cost every month is changes. So I understood how to balance a checkbook, for example, but with like incomes with variable expenses, it became kind of like overwhelming and daunting at first to figure that out. So when I had the biggest problem with my problem of finances, it was associated with my actions towards that problem stopping at the excuse. So anytime something would come up and that became kind of an obstacle or a challenge for me, I would just say the words, I'm not good at finances, and that would end. I never had an action past that. So my actions stopped at my excuse, and nothing improved until I improved my response. Meaning I continued to learn more, read more books. I decided, okay, if it is going to be a huge pain in the ass to learn this, if it really is something I'm not great at, I need to still dive into this. I hope to plan to own the business for decades, so I might as well start now because I'm going to have a long time to learn it. And the longer I hold off on learning it, the more restricted my dream will be, and the more restricted my happiest and healthiest life would be. So I recognized that my actions couldn't stop at my excuses and that nothing would improve until I improved my response. So another example I had this in business development was I believed at one point that it was too difficult to expand my clientele because programs would take so long to write. So I write training programs, nutrition programs for people, as well as own and operate the gym and stuff. And in order to write good programs, meaning they were truly personalized to the individual for their goals, their abilities, their body types, their equipment. I mean, everything, as if you're sitting it down and writing it for that single individual. Writing programs to that depth takes a lot of time. It can take at least 1 hour, if not 2 hours. And depending on the depth of the clientele, depending on injury issues and whatnot, it can actually take 3 or 4 hours to write a single 1 month program correctly. Now, I am very good at writing programs. This isn't like I'm dilly-daddling or doing it in the wrong way or just kind of like inefficient. This is extreme efficiency in that way of doing it. And I believe that that was going to be an issue for me. So at that point, when I knew I wanted to expand on my business, but I believed that to be an issue for me, I had a very narrow vision. I kind of thought in my mind I could either write good programs or I would have to use templates in order to grow the business. And I never wanted to write templates because non-personalized programming is never as good as personalized programming. Now, there are some non-personalized programming that can be a good start or build up to a more personalized program, but a lot of the people I deal with, they do have individual issues and they want individual programming. So that's what they were purchasing. So I couldn't just send them a template and say it was personalized because then I would be, lying, and I would that's not my character. That's not how I want to own and operate the business. So I had a very narrowed vision: either write good programs or use templates. And it took me changing that vision. It took me responding more, learning more, being more proactive, and creating a new vision. In that maybe I didn't have to template the product, but I could template the process. So there was a way in which I could set up the process to be faster. That didn't mean that the product wasn't any less quality. So for example, I started creating a Word document that had exercise video links. So one of the things I do when I write programming is I send a tutorial video on how to perform every single exercise I write in the programming. Now, initially, I would do that by looking up on YouTube or making the video myself, and it would take time to get the link for every single exercise I'd write in the program. But I decided to start using a Word document, and I would copy and paste the exercise name and the video link. So that way I would be able to find it faster. I was still able to find the exact exercise I wanted, but I was able to find it faster. So that document now has grown to over 600 and some exercises. It's probably actually more than that already. But the last time I kind of counted through, it was 600 and some exercises. And anytime that I want a new exercise, like, so say I'm looking at a client, they have a certain injury issue, they have a certain specific need, and I think to myself, oh, you know what, exercise blank 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 would be the best. I look on my paper and it's not there. I'll then go to YouTube, I'll find the link, or I'll go to the gym, make the video, create a link on YouTube, and then put it in my paper. So it's grown over time, and that is now something I can use as a faster way to set up and write up programming. It doesn't mean that I've templated the product, I just templated the process. So I kind of make the process faster and easier. So it took me creating a kind of a new vision, a new solution to solve the issue. So my problem was that I had a narrowed vision. I had thought it was all or nothing. I thought it was good programming or crap programming. And I didn't realize until I kind of took more time, took more actions, read more material, talked to people smarter than me in business, and I found more information. I took more actions to then find out that there was another alternative. So it wasn't that black or white narrowed vision that I had. When I improved my response to the problem, when I didn't just stop at the excuse, I was able to kind of move past that and find a better solution. So those are two examples of where it wasn't the problem that I wasn't good at finances. That wasn't the problem. The problem was I wasn't putting in actions to become better at finances. And with programming, the problem wasn't that I couldn't write good programming for a lot of people. The problem was that I didn't continue to find a way to do that. And it took me taking further actions past my excuse for me to be able to actually solve the problem or find a way around it or work towards addressing it. So this is what we want to look at, is in your life, do you have a problem that has been your problem for a while? And again, these can be problems such as, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the skill. I don't have the knowledge, anything like that, that we know there's a thing that we want to address. There's something standing in the way of our best life. And it's not just a today thing. It's not just this week or this month. It's been continual for months, been continual for years. Do you have a problem like that in your life? Well, what are you doing about the problem? Do your actions stop at your excuse? Do you just say, oh, I don't have the time? And then you continue to live without that thing that you really want because you don't put in actions towards finding a way to make time? Do you continue to say, oh, I don't have enough energy? Well, what are you doing to find more energy, or how to better allocate the energy that you already have? Again, do you stop at the excuse of, I don't have money? Well, what are you doing to find more money? What are you doing to save money? What are you doing about that problem? Do your actions stop at your excuse? Or are you continuing to try new actions to produce a new result? So you may have tried actions in the past and maybe they failed. You got frustrated and you kind of quit for a while. Well, hopefully this podcast might be a way to kind of relight a fire under your butt and get you to take more actions. And of course, you're welcome to reach out to us at brutalirongym@gmail.com and maybe find like a new ear to listen to. So we'll listen to you. We can maybe share resources. Just continuing to try to find solutions, continuing to put in actions. That's the only way you're going to get a change. So I was just talking with somebody actually today about something, and we were talking about the concept that if you don't try something new, there will be no new result. And that sounds like common sense. But how many of us just either we're scared of what we think it'll take, we're afraid to fail, or we've tried some things in the past that didn't work, so now we're burned out and we're kind of stuck in this middle ground? How many of us recognize that we have a problem, but we're doing nothing new to address the problem? Okay? And what's very important to remember, or what's really important to kind of recognize, is that there is power in believing that your problem isn't your problem. Because it'll allow you to believe that your reaction to the problem is the problem. And guess what? We can change our reaction. If we believe the problem is in some way related to us, or our actions or our response, if we have some ownership of the problem, we can then change the problem by changing our actions and responses. So, if you feel like you don't have enough time, there's actions you can take to address that. There are people who have found ways around time restrictions to be successful. If you feel like you don't have enough energy, there are ways around that. There are people who have found ways to address energy management to still be successful. The same is true of not having enough money, or not being good at something, or maybe you don't know what to do. But whatever your problem is, you must continue to take action. You must continue to respond to that problem, rather than just stopping at the excuse of the problem. Okay? Now, we had mentioned earlier that what if your problem is someone or something else? Well, in podcast 157, so way back when in podcast 157, we actually covered this. The title is Address It or Accept It. So those are the two options you have when it comes to problems associated with other people. You can look for your role in the problem, and maybe you can correct something that's within your control. If you can't find something within your control, then you have to address it with that someone. Okay? Ask them to make the change that you believe is necessary for you to be happy. If they will, great, you can work together for it. If they won't, well, at least you tried that option. The then option is to accept it. Now, sometimes this means, if there's people in our life we sometimes have to distance ourselves from, that's one option. If there are no ways that you can distance yourself from that person, or there's nothing immediate, so say for example it's a bad boss and you don't have a new job prospect available, well, there are ways to accept it. There's ways to mentally work through it and work around it. And that's something we cover in that podcast 157. So please, please, please check that out if you feel like your problem is someone or something else. Okay? So, one of the big things you want to do is to have the belief that the problem can change. Have the belief that you have the power to change it if you continue to try a new response to it. You can find others who've overcome your obstacle and try what they tried. There's tons of books, tons of videos. You can reach out to us. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. We can help you. So I've helped over 2,000 clients. I've been doing this for 18 years. I can tell you that I've heard every problem under the sun, and I can help you find a way through it, around it, or address it, or accept it. So it's been, oh my gosh, I can name hundreds of problems. So all the ones we've named already about I don't have enough time, enough energy, enough money. I've talked with people who have, spouse issues. Maybe the spouse or a loved one seems to be in the way of what they want their best life to be. I've talked to people even who have had tough pasts, maybe, histories of abuse that have kind of come to light and become an obstacle for them in their next step of happiness. But whatever your obstacle might be, if you're struggling for trying to find a next action, just email us at brutalironjim@gmail.com and we will help. Okay? Just please don't stop at the excuse. Don't just say, I don't have time, and then don't make any changes. Don't say, I don't have enough money, and don't make any changes. Don't just stop at the excuse. Try something. Continue to change your response to the problem. Okay? So your problem isn't your problem. Your problem is how you are or are not addressing the problem. Okay? So, if you need any help in this at all, please reach out to us. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. The main hope of this podcast is just to promote everyone, the listeners, to go past just the excuse. Stop naming that thing that's in your way and then continuing to not really do anything about it. If you are taking actions right now to try to adjust to it and you're in the process of that, congratulations. So it might take more time, might take more patience, and that's freaking awesome that you're already taking steps to do that. So if you need any support in that journey, you're just kind of like about to be frazzled, about to be burned out, again, you can reach out to us. Our email is brutalironjim@gmail.com. We just want everyone to live their happiest life, their healthiest life. And if you feel like there's something in the way, our main goal is just to reach out and be available to you. So you're not alone in your journey. There are probably hundreds of people who've addressed a similar thing. So we would be happy to kind of connect you with those people or connect you with what has worked for them. Okay? So you're not alone. Reach out if you need anything at all. Just continue to try efforts towards the problem. You can make a difference. Just keep trying. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful. And if you do like the podcast or if you think this will be helpful to anybody you know, please share it. You can share it on social media. You can share it in an email, share it in a text, however you want to. Just the more people we share these podcasts with, the more we can spread around kind of good information to make the world a happier place. Also, if you like this type of information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. So the podcast is for you. So we want to know what you want to learn about. You can always let us know at our email at brutalironjim@gmail.com. Cool. As always, I hope this was helpful. And thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.